Hey, welcome back to Metropole Grid. My name is Andre.
And I'm Patrick.
Thanks so much for tuning in. This is round 2 of single-sided Swiss Day 1 at Canadian Nationals 2023 East Coast Edition.
Yep.
And we have a great game for you. On the left, that is Asaru, Julien, locally known, a very competitive Netrunner player.
Easily one of the strongest Netrunner players in Montreal, and don't tell him I said that.
Top 4 at Startup World Champions last year.
Yep.
Playing, that's just the Adam Doyle Amakua playmat, and he's playing Azmari. We had a really strong Azmari season. This is one of the standard IDs from NBN. 40 card minimum is going to be really important in this matchup. And
Yes.
Julien loves Azmari. There's a lot of flexibility how to play it. I think we saw this sort of Laura Azmari decks that were playing Economic Warfare, Hard-Hitting News, and big parts of that deck did rotate. Hard-Hitting News and Oppo Research are definitely different beasts as much as it kind of still does the same thing.
Yeah, if it's the same niche.
Yes.
But yeah, so Azmari EdTech is at the end of the Corp's turn, the Corp can choose a card type.
Yeah.
And if the first time the runner plays a card of that type, the Corp gains 2 credits.
Yeah, and that seems like a really nuanced and interesting ability, but
In practice, not necessarily.
it's
yeah.
not. In fact, a lot of players will have a card that they put in front of the table as a reminder to be like, this is an event to remind you a called event.
But
Julien
functionally,
is just going to call event the whole
Just
game.
as event, because everyone runs at least 15 to 20 events.
Yes.
Sometimes many more.
Changing it also can be sometimes the worst thing you do because the
Yes.
runner just holds the events in hand.
Waits until you change.
Yeah, and then you say resource and they play all their events. So we'll talk about that.
There's a bit of a mind game there. If Julien just says, I'm only going to say events, then how does that affect the run?
And on the right, we have a player who's going to be able to play around this pretty heavily. This is Hany. Hany from the Ottawa region.
Right, Hany, another one of my favorite players.
Yes.
Just always happy to see Hany around, happy to hear his voice.
Yeah, it's been a while. He was one of the big organizers that did all the Netrunner organized play stuff in the Ottawa-Gatineau region, which, 4 or 5 years ago, we were driving out there all the time. So it's super cool to see the folks who came in from Ottawa because it's been a minute and they're
And this is a really fun
phenomenal
matchup to
players.
see because these players have played against each other at
Many
events like this many, many times. They know each other very well.
No, he's playing Tāo from System Gateway. This is an ID that got a bit more play at the Continental season because of the new console Hermes. Have you seen these decks?
Yeah, they're very interesting. I like that they're using the Leela ability on Hermes to kind of update the Tāo ability, which is to move ice around.
Yes, you can swap 2 ice after agenda scored or stolen, and the idea there is you can put that on top of Hermes to get all the ice off of R&D and then win with the conduit.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay, we're already off of the races, so
yes, so double ice and credit. Julien is playing a little bit spoiled. Hey, there's the
Hermes, of course.
Most powerful console, very maybe not arguably from the new set, gives you that lethal ability. We'll see how impactful that is. Now, this is the big thing. I know what deck Julien is playing because he's been grinding this, preparing for the tournament. This is, I believe it's Rotom Appliance's deck, if I'm not mistaken from the last Continentals. It is hyper-glacier. So one of the big things about playing a 44 card minimum deck is that you can get away with playing only 6 5-3 agendas.
18 agenda points split between 6 3-point agendas.
Yes.
You probably got re-education.
I think it's Send a Message and Bologna usually.
Send a message below it, of
Yes.
course. Yeah, that makes sense.
'Cause this deck-
you've got some big expensive ice as well.
You're going to see some of the biggest ice in the format. So daily quest sticking on the table, that is something that Hany definitely wants to deal with sooner than later because economy in this deck is a bit fragile. There's a lot of ice that's 8 to res, 10 to res.
Yeah, you've got Hydras, you've got toll booths.
Exactly. Seeing how soon he can deal with this is of the utmost importance, but Tāo, I think the breaker suite's like Ngolo. It's very slow, very expensive.
I'm hoping to see a pinhole threading to kind of sneak your way into the daily quest server.
So we'll see again, that daily quest is going to be 3 credits a turn here, and when Julien just
I
going
think
to
it's
put
2
ice on the
credits
table.
for Julien, 3 credits for the runner if they...
It's flipped, other way.
No.
Yeah, 3 credits a turn.
Why do I always forget that? Okay.
So icing that up, and Julien's going to play it real slow here. There's not a lot of agendas in the deck. Sometimes when you play Azmari, you draw a lot of agendas really quickly and flood up, but there's only 6 agendas. I think the density is in 1 agenda in every 7.3 cards.
Yeah.
So he can go a long time playing very slow and methodical.
Oh, and there, you want to talk about this?
This is the SMC from Canets. We commissioned this from Cat Shen. Turned out fantastic.
Yeah,
and
what a lovely piece of art.
yeah, very, very colorful. It's the Montreal City logo kind of blown apart there. And you're going to see on the other side of the table, very methodical. 2 things you're going to notice. We're setting up for a war. Both sides of the table are just going to be building their engines.
Lots
and
of
Shaper
econ.
has a lot of econ that doesn't require interaction, but you'll notice very specific. Hany here is not playing events. He definitely has events, but you're going to be waiting for those turns where you can get away with playing 3 or 4 events in a single turn.
So that Julien's ability doesn't trigger more than
Yes.
By the way, also shout out to Hany for reorganizing their board so that the 2 teleworks are next to each other.
Yeah, love
that
it.
just works for me.
So here we have the teleworks again. There's a lot of money on those cards. Julien,
All right, that's now 3 ice per-
deep.
with,
Only
what,
7
7
credits.
credits? Yeah.
Yes, that's not a lot of money because
No.
some of this ice goes very quickly. Now we have a card in a new server, uniced. Assuming it might be a spin doctor. I don't think maybe you have an ugly Rashida you want to do something with, but we'll see. We're going to check it right now.
Okay, check it out.
That is
It's
a
a
spin.
spin doctor. All right.
That is the circuit
Let
breaker.
Hany trash it because there's no point removing this from the game right now.
Yeah, that's 2 credits. Again, money is about equal on both sides of the table. You're going to see here Hany has a lot of money attached to Teleworks. He doesn't need it right now.
Right.
More
Yeah.
important is setting up. So we want to see what his breaker suite is. The big question is he a turbine deck? Is he going to be able to deal with some of the bigger ice in the format? Or is he just on Ngolo and hoping the ice reposition power of Hermes and Tāo will be enough to make favorable servers?
Right. Maybe make that big tough server all code gates.
Yes.
Or something.
And this is actually really important for the corp too. When you're playing against Hermes Tāo, how your ice placement, like you're going to see this classic, what is called a Shaper U, where you need to ice up R&D because that's where you lose the conduit, and you need to score agendas in the remote server, so you build a remote server.
HQ is going to be a bit light.
Yes. Oh, hey, your digital life, new card from the set. Love this one. Just, I think this is the one change Julian meant to the deck. I think hedge funds were in that slot, and he just played a card that's a bit.
Replace the hedge funds with yeah, sure. It's better in a lot of situations that Azmari can get into.
Well, Spin Doctor just went off. You're starting your turn
Yeah,
with like
exactly.
7 cards in hand.
8
Why
cards,
not?
really.
Defensive upgrade or an upgrade at least on top of the daily quest. I think we saw that to be them a virus from the hand. So I'm not sure if we're going to see like true defensive upgrades, but again, just clicking up, I think we've got 9 credits from that
Yeah,
quest.
and the virus looks like an upgrade. Even
Yes.
if it's not going to have an effect, it looks like an upgrade.
And that might make Hany hold on to those pinholes, maybe for something that he thinks is a bit more powerful than just the money coming in. But I wanted to say this really quickly. One of the big ways you can mess up into the Shaper deck is by like icing up archives. As soon as you do something like icing up archives, which is not a very
Tāo
impactful
can
thing,
use that.
yeah, Tāo will take like your toll booth, your Hydra, and put it on archives.
Exactly.
So it's really important that Julian here only ices up what is extremely necessary. Otherwise, you're giving, a position for some of your best
Yeah,
ice
he's
to move.
playing very carefully into that. And Hany, too, is just focusing on econ right now, really setting up still.
Methodical play. It's about 7 turns in 1 run, maybe, because it's just about the war. And he understands that he needs to wait for the corp to score out to get those bounces, to get that conduit run in. One SMC, you have a bit of, a threat there, but just resource economy.
Another thing to consider is that the new card Upper Research triggers when a corp card is trashed or stolen.
Yeah.
So when Hany goes in on that daily quests, that could put him at a low enough credit threshold that Upper Research is really going to hurt.
Yeah.
So that's just something that he might be considering as well.
It's hard to tell whether this is an Oppo deck, right?
Right. I don't know what kind of tag punishment
Exactly.
if any.
But you
he's
have to be
running.
worried about it.
You should be worried because you're playing NBN.
44 cards for me, sometimes I find it very difficult to put all the slots that you can into a deck because you need tag punishment, you need tags as well.
Yeah, I'm personally running a 59 card Azmari.
I think that might be an event hold in hand. Again, he's holding his 2 credits. Event is the name.
Yeah, he's like,
So
okay.
Dirty Laundry Archives,
get a
not
bit of econ.
a huge event, not good value. It's a
but
click
maybe
for
we're
3.
going to have a few more.
Exactly.
There we go.
And
Getting-
this is how you play around Azmari. You hold the double event turn, the triple event turn.
For
so
sure.
that was 7 credits for a 2 credit trade. You can get away with that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
kind of like that NBN card from the last set, whose name I've forgotten.
Oh yeah, non-equivalent. Yes.
Non-equivalent. Thank you.
Okay, Julian just drew into his first. Saru has his first agenda there. That's a send a message in hand. And I noticed throughout the day that Saru does this really great play pattern, and I like this a lot, is that he's pretty quick to take agendas, 5-3 agendas, and put them in the remote server and not advance them. Because he understands it's safer in that remote server behind 3 ice than at the 1
is
and
in
5
the
on
one
HQ.
iced HQ, yeah, of
like
course.
that is the one server here that Hany can actually threaten to run. Airblade's coming down.
Airblade's going to be interesting because Airblade can hose a lot of different NBN ice with its prevent a when encountered effect.
Yeah, we're checking this. Mind you, in Sol Advance, just an NGO front.
Sure.
It'd be wild to be anything else, but there's some respect here to make sure you're not sneaking out. Again, the NGO front, you were denying another 2 credit play for a click, which is okay.
Had to double check on Airblade because it's a brand new card.
Yeah, what ice are you excited to Airblade? The net damage probably doesn't matter as much as Hydra can say that on there.
I feel like IP block, if Hany's got an
Rotated.
AI, IP blocks rotated. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to keep up.
I think it's like Funhouse and Toll Booth.
Funhouse for sure. Yeah. Toll Booth, that'll save you 3 credits, which is great.
Yeah, that's a good econ card. If you save 9 credits for a 1 credit install, you're feeling pretty good about it. But again, we're just both posturing.
Yeah. What's interesting is a lot of NSG ice these days is on res effects rather than on encounter. So I can't actually remember. Okay.
Considering the Carmen, I think he realized that was not a successful run because the server disappeared.
Of course, yeah.
So while we know there's a Carmen, he might hold off for another turn, another
Yeah.
Nuka.
Carmen would have gotten a discount
Yeah.
if there had been a successful run.
And that
But
shows
right
us the
now-
killer.
Yep.
Right? Like Shaper has reasonable options for killers. Late game stuff, Ngolo, Nanotech, those are fine.
Yeah. Ika has been seeing some play in the Arasana decks, of course, but
Trojan support's great. But 27 credits, as much as 1 ice can cost
Man.
10 to res, that money can go fast.
yeah. And right now, NBN doesn't really use their credits for tagging the way they used to.
Yeah,
because
Oppo for
you-
7 is a lot, but
Oppo
we're not
system,
at
like,
threat rate.
Right, you have to beat a trade. You don't have to beat a tracing.
Now,
4 ice on that server, probably the agenda in there.
Now, this is a big support piece for the idea that we're playing as few agendas as possible. In Saru's hand, you see Echo Chamber,
Echo Chamber, of course.
which is the reason the Corpse can get away with this. Like, I'm only playing 6 3-point agendas,
Yep.
is they can score out 2 3-pointers, which takes them to 6 points.
And then they have a fake 1-pointer that only works for them.
Which is, it's an asset. It's an FFG card.
Yep.
And lets you spend your whole turn and 4 credits to convert it to 1 point.
Right. It has to be on the table for a turn, and it's kind of cheap to trash, but, it is an easy fake 1 point.
Again, Cold War here, both players posturing. It's about to pop off, I reckon. SMC on the table, we have
Double
2.
SMC.
I think, did Asaru put something in their remote server? He did. So
Yeah,
this is the
something
thing.
new there.
If you know it's a 5-3 agenda, you don't have to run it now. If you think it's a Rashida, which we haven't seen yet, that's something that you probably want to deal with, but 4 ice makes it super expensive.
Yep.
But install advance is the threat. As much as we know, obviously, NGOs in this deck, I think Hany can tell this is hyper-glacier here. We're going for our first big run here, overclock on HQ.
Okay.
Gaining 2 credits for the event, and we'll see what the ice res here. Again, you want to generally divide the corp cards drawn by 5, and that's how many agendas. So we're assuming there's probably 1 or 2 agendas in hand. Once you understand this deck has 6 agendas, that's only 1 in 7.
Yeah.
So there's likely at least 1 agenda in hand, and this is why I love Julien putting, I think that's a send a message in a remote server. So he gets the agenda in there because he knows it's safer in there than HQ, because this is a really well-timed HQ
Toll
poke.
booth, huge. Okay.
Massive res, 8 credits is one of the most expensive NBN ice.
What's exciting is that as soon as the DAO player, Hany, knows that where the toll booth is, they can start moving it around.
SMC, let's see what we're cracking here again. Angolo is one of the like one-stop shop solutions Shaper still has access to, and there you go.
Yeah, of course. So Hany loses 3 from their credit pool and then pays 5 from the overclock
Yeah.
to bring out the Angolo.
Well, he can use the Airblade, right? Like he can save
Of course
3
you can just
credits.
use the Airblade, yeah. That's a fair use of an Airblade token. That's,
Yeah, that makes
that
an
turns
economy
Airblade
card.
into a very good econ card, better than a telework contract.
So Angolo, to break this, after you lose the 3, it's 2 to boost and then 1 to break, because it boosts really well.
Yes.
So that's 3 credits. It looks like he's taking from the pool, saving the Airblades. Maybe you're worrying that there's like some sort of interaction with Funhouse that's harder to deal with, not
Yeah,
just
fair.
economy. But we're through 1 boost, 1 break, pretty good. Breaking toll booth for 3, as much as you could have broken that for instead of 6-3 with the Airblade. We get a single access here, and again, you're assuming 1 in 5 about is an agenda. So you're assuming, yeah, it's reasonable there's an agenda in here. This is a really good single run, as much as it's been a while. If you get an agenda, you get a bounce, but Rashida?
Rashida's also good to trash. We're happy to trash Rashida.
Yo, I can't remember where these full arts are from. Asaru and I got them from Worlds. I think they were from German players,
Oh, really?
because I don't think that's an official one. Creative, again, 2 events in a turn. That's what you want to do. 12 credits. So a lot of money went there. Mind you, Angolo is very expensive.
Yes.
7 to produce with the SMC. It does take up 2 MU, so MU is almost entirely full. You have 1 more because of the Hermes. We'll see here 19 credits. You know, that money goes fast. You res a Hydra,
really
suddenly
does.
9 credits is
Yep.
gone. And the big thing here is Hany wants to pressure the remote server. So all that stuff gets resed, you get low on money, and then you can res ice on HQ or on R&D, and then you conduit
Yeah,
in.
exactly. You make them spend the money elsewhere so that you can really target the R&D.
Yeah, because it's all about that sort of like judo, misdirection, redirection of
Exactly.
Hermes Tāo.
Something Yomi.
Diesel to start, 2 credits, 3 card draw though, and install advanced events on a remote server. It looks like an NGO front.
Yeah.
It's so hard for that not to be an NGO front with Hermes on the table. Like maybe that's where you could push out a Bologna, but probably an NGO front.
Yeah, with Hermes on the table, you're not just double advancing a 5-3. You
Yeah.
want to kind of spend another turn just like
Exactly.
slow roasting it. No one home to prevent some tags.
Yeah, this card is weird. A creative to finish again, 3 events in a turn. This card got a fair bit worse. That was a tech card you played into Hard-Hitting News, but now
Yes.
with Oppo being 2 tags, event, text, 2 tags, it actually doesn't clear 4 tags anymore. It's so much more annoying.
Wait, is no one home the one that resets the trace?
Yeah, the first time you take tags or net damage, do a trace.
Right, okay, yeah. Cool.
Now, triple advance. That is the play pattern. You
Exactly.
respect Hermes.
Because Hermes will bounce something back to hand, and that will leave you with 1 click left
Yes.
to replace whatever was bounced.
And if you have only 1 ice there on R&D, like the conduit starts to be scary. As much as there's very few agendas in the deck, and you also have to remember that half of the agendas in the deck are Bologna. So that means you have to access with additional 5 credits. That
At
can
least 5
slow
credits.
down your conduit
For
roll.
sure.
Diesel. I'm not sure if Julien missed his 2 credits here or whether he named program because he expected a run. Dirty Laundry there on the daily quest. And then the Carmen
the
comes
Carmen.
down. So we have all our MU used up. You can do some quick maths on Carmen. Do you know how much it costs Carmen to break a Hydra?
Hydra is 6 strength.
6 strength.
3, so 2, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It's 7.
Oh no.
chopping the remote server. There it is.
Oh, okay.
The Hydra now down to 8 credits. You're assuming there's an NGO, so that will be 16. But this Hydra is so expensive for Hany to go through.
Yeah,
Now, the
this is rough.
subroutines are really relevant. If you let them fire, Julien gets 5 credits, you end the run. You're not going to take net damage here, but forced to pay 7 out of pocket.
Right. Now, if Hany has a conduit in his deck, he could install it for 6.
Yeah.
It'll be expensive this turn, but it'll make future Hydras a bit easier to deal with.
Turbine?
Turbine, yeah. Sorry, what did I say?
I think conduit.
Yeah, I'm
No.
obviously-
Yeah.
Yeah, turbine.
So it's like, it's maybe hard with this breaker suite, right? Because you still don't have a fractor. I don't know if you're playing extra MU cards. Like, it's hard to see what this is going to be a turbine list, but Carmen for 7 credits is so much. We're going to keep going.
By the way, that Hydra alt art is from Worlds last year.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Here's the border control.
And now suddenly, if you need to run the remote server, it's 14 credits because
Because you have to run more than once.
Twice.
Yeah.
Border control, one of the most powerful Wayland cards. That is the jump between startup and standard. Such a flexible card, play op.
Easily one of my favorite cards of all time.
Yes, people refer to this as a force multiplier.
Yes.
The idea is that now the remote server, instead of just adding an ice that costs 3 to break, 4 to break, now it doubles. Now, we're going to Ngolo through this. Ngolo can make anything a code gate once a turn, so instead of producing the fractor, we are just going to pay 4, and that's probably the worst ice to see there.
Yeah. Right now, at least they're only really doubling the Hydra.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a lot of other expensive ice, although I don't know what the
So this is really
innermost
interesting
ice is.
because Hany needs to produce a fractor. Otherwise, the subroutine on that's going to fire, which means that he
Giving
res the border
Julien
control for 4
credits.
credits.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know what the fractor is, but it's locked behind a self-modifying code, so you have to SMC for the fractor. Now, that might force Julien to res the NG front, and then there's one more ice behind it. It can't
And
be
I'm
a Hydra.
assuming there is. Yeah.
Yes.
It could be Toll Booth.
And if you're worried about a defensive upgrade, we don't know what that is. I think we know it's a virus, and then still stealing a Bologna. It's interesting whether you want to go through here. You could force the issue. But end the run's going to fire, return 4 credits.
Oh, that's too bad.
I think Hany
Hate to
needs
see
to
it.
understand how aggressive he needs to be on the remote server, but we're going to get a score out here. NGO front. Remembering to res it before you get it ruined by Hermes
Right, yeah.
is super important.
Or do you bait the Hermes to bounce the NGO front because you don't want to deal with something else?
Oh, you need the money so bad there.
No. Yeah, what I said was foolish, and I shouldn't have said it, frankly. And I wish we hadn't recorded it.
Double advance, send a message.
Send a message. What massive piece of ice are we going to res?
Let's see another
Gonna be
Hydra,
a-
right? So innermost, that's the one that you least have to res, and it's just a
Surveyor.
surveyor in R&D.
Oh, Surveyor. That's a Katara cycle piece of ice. Was that ever banned? I think it was
No.
briefly banned. Okay.
People didn't like this for a while.
Right.
Then Boomerang came out.
Boomerang kind of hosed it.
Yes, but it's one of the ice that scales off the server strength.
Yeah.
So now we have 2 big triggers here. We have the Tāo and the Hermes, and almost all this ice is actually very interesting for both of those options. Getting the border control off the remote server makes the remote
wow,
server
yeah.
more palatable. Getting the surveyor onto HQ is pretty
Makes it
rubbish.
weaker. Yeah, it's interesting. I like putting the Surveyor somewhere that maybe Junia was hoping Hany would move it off from.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
like to make Dao do work for you.
But this is fascinating because getting border control off the server is bad, but then to do that, are you swapping in a toll booth? Like, what's the worst evil here? Now, Julien does have a click left, so if he does, Hermes and Ice, we have a click to repair it. And mind you,
Yeah.
Hermes is mandatory, so you're forced to do it. Sometimes you don't want to, but it's not a May trigger. So this is a very interesting decision here.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I don't know what I would choose here.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't.
And this is also really interesting. Hany's run on HQ a while ago, it looks like we're putting the toll booth. Okay, we are giving up
Giving
on
up
the remote.
on the remote server for
Yes.
sure, and bouncing to hand with Hermes, the other R&D ice.
So now Hany is doubling down. That remote server, if you want to calculate how much it costs to run, the answer is nightmarish. So you have to run that a lot.
Yeah.
You still have that Bologna credits. You have to be border controlled twice, toll booth fires. All this stuff is really bad. So now we're doubling down on the fact that we are going to control the top of R&D with a conduit so that Julien literally cannot draw into an agenda.
Right.
So we have to control the top of the deck. Right now, it's a 2-strength surveyor. It'll probably be 4-strength when Julien repairs this issue.
Because he's got one more click to do so with.
Yeah, it's all about central pressure right now because that remote server is, it's beyond approach.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Paying 1 credit to reinstall piece of ice there.
So Carmen into Surveyor, I think the breakpoints are really weird. 4 strength
3, 4.
is okay. Once it gets to 6 strength, you have to boost twice. That's really ugly.
Yeah.
So we're finishing off the Nuka, drawing 3 cards here. Again, down to 9 credits.
I think it's how Rotor.
Oh, Crowder being the Fractor. I wonder if that was in hand, so that's why he couldn't pull with SMC.
maybe.
That actually would explain a lot. Because I think he wanted to go through that border control and force the issue a bit further. Yeah, if it's in hand, that's the worst place in Shaper unless you're playing Arisana.
Unless I'm playing Arisana, which is one of the reasons I love Arisana.
Yeah, Arisana is so cool. We're
Yeah.
going to see a lot of Arisana today.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, telework. There was a lot of money on the table, and you notice Hany is very smartly choosing when to take the money. Again, you only need so much money, but it's more important that he draws through his deck, sets up those 3 event turns, stuff like
Yep.
that. So like having infinite money doesn't, well, in this matchup actually, it seems pretty important. But we'll see how he can get his pressure on, because Julian has, I would say, the least amount of money he's had in a long time, and a lot of money went on resing that ice
Yeah, what can you
on
do with that?
the remote.
I feel like it's conduit, but ooh,
It might just be SMC getting cracked for 2 credits. And there it is, conduit.
is that the bottom card of the deck?
Yeah, it looked like it. Good to find that.
Yep.
So this card will snowball the more often you can run R&D. Now, the first run, if you're spending a lot of money, pretty expensive. Second run, you're starting to see 2 cards and 3
Yep.
cards. It's something that Julian has to purge out at some point.
Right, and of course we think we've seen him of Iris
Yes.
get installed, so maybe not as big a threat as Hany would hope right now.
But this is probably all the multi-X in the deck. I
Yeah.
think this is the sort of matchup where you love a Maker's Eye, you love a twinning, you love a like one run value, because it's hard to make a lot of runs. Imagine there's another Hydra on R&D. Like that server is going to cost you 13 credits. You cannot afford to conduit through that unless you have some D-res, unless you can move the offending ice off of the server.
Yeah,
And unfortunately,
we're just going into making some money.
yes, it's still going to be a bit of a Cold War.
Yeah, building back econ.
This is the problem. When the deck only has 6 agendas, it's so hard to rely on your like Hermes
Yeah.
Tāo ability. That
Oh no.
6
All
strength
right,
surveyor.
6 strength surveyor plus 2 more probably Hydras.
Now in hand, Julien has been drawing, I would say really favorably. Rashida goes in the remote server, but sometimes you just draw ugly. You draw half your agendas by turn 4. You have attitude adjustments often in the deck. I think you see one in hand to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
control that. Diesel to start, that's 2 credits again for the corporation, making good money off of Azmari as
Sure, gamble, yeah.
It's an unimpressive ability, but
yeah.
you gain like 14 credits for free.
God, I don't like Azmari.
Overclock now?
Overclocking R&D, interesting. Of course it's a Hydra. Of course.
7 credits here. This run now, you have to get through Hydra and a 6 strength surveyor, which is costs only 1 less. This is, I think, a 13 credit run. Overclock's going to help. It's worth noting that the overclock does work with conduit on the first run, but after that, you actually have to make the run through conduit itself. On 0 credits, though, at least the middle ice won't be rezzed, but this is, again, it's X is double the amount of ice protecting the server. It doesn't have to be rezzed.
Yes, more X's where numbers should be. Please.
Yeah, love X. Now, big issue here too is that we've seen one send a message, which means there's 5 agendas left in the deck. Half of them are Bolognas. We're accessing with only 2 credits here.
Not going to be able to steal a Bologna.
Chamber, though, off the top.
Should probably trash a chamber, but we are pretty low on credits right now.
For 1 credit, that is the card that gets Julian to 7 points. As
Yeah.
much as like this is the sort of deck that sometimes just goes to time, wins on 6. Because the runner has to, again, to win, they have to find half the agendas in the deck if they don't have something like a Mad Dash, which you're not expecting with a conduit deck because it does not work well together. So a lot of work, and again, Bologna's, that's a 13 credit R&D. Dao has to do a lot of work to move this around.
And we know Julian installed a Rashida, so that 0 credits is not going to be a hindrance for long. Okay, so Hany's
Just recovering.
getting some money.
And there's the Rashida. Would love to see your digital life off there. You start with like 8 cards in hand.
Oh,
This is where like the change between hedge fund is really nice, because if you recover from Rashida, it's like, oh, we see 2 in hand.
yes. Like your digital life is such a good replacement for hedge fund because you can trigger it from so much lower. It's
Yeah.
great.
As long as you have some card draw attack here, which like, yeah, everyone plays Rashida, you play Spin Doctor. I don't know whether you have to go out of your way to play Planogram, Reality Plus. There's like a lot of good homes across not only NBN, you see it a fair bit in HB as well.
Yeah.
With things like fully operational that draw
Exactly.
a lot.
And like I mentioned in Shinteki,
Yeah.
bacterial reprogramming into your digital life is ridiculous. That's some good econ.
So double digital life. I think we're gonna get up to a
Oh,
healthy
no.
10 credits. We started on 0.
Yeah, we started on 0 this turn.
And just something else on the remote server again.
Julian is too big to fail.
We're just grinding through so much economy here, and understanding R&D costs 13, and then you still need Bologna money.
Yeah.
Means that at some point you're actually going to exhaust the credits in the deck.
Yeah, it must be pretty disheartening to know that the only agenda you have 1 less of the easy to score agenda.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important that it wasn't a Bologna scored out.
Yeah.
I think we're poking here on R&D. With only 12 credits, this is not possible. Let alone the middle ice can be res. I think this might be a mistake here. We did, again, Dirty Laundry Archives. That was 3 credits for the runner. For the runner, 2 for the corporation.
Is Hany thinking about this? I'm not sure if this is an official chop.
I think it might be, but again, you can take a take back here, no problem, because there was no gained information. As soon as you
Of course, you could take tags.
you can take tags. You've gone through a lot of your resource economy.
Yeah, you can take tags.
he hasn't seen a lot of cards, but it doesn't look like this deck has tag punishment. It looks like it's focusing on this sort of glacier line. So you could maybe float a tag. Maybe you're worried about a shipment from Bodissa Burst. That would probably be the worst case. That works with 5/3s. But this run, I don't think makes sense. I don't think you can get through this at all, let alone expect the middle ice to be rezzed.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hany is thinking this through, though.
It's so interesting. I've played against each of these players so often that I can totally hear their voices
Yeah.
and like imagine their gestures as they're.
Oh, we can't hear it now, but in the upload there is audio, so you do
great,
hear
cool,
them.
cool.
Yeah. They're fantastic guys.
yeah.
But we didn't mention this
I like
too.
them both. Again, don't tell me I said that.
Ngolo is one of the weird breakers because it can make something a code gate once per turn.
Yes.
And so a lot of times Shapers actually use that to break some of the bigger sentries. It's like pretty reasonable to break into Nancy, a massive sentry with Ngolo. But in this matchup, the break points on things like that 6-strength Surveyor and the what's it called? The Hydra? Are not better than just breaking with Carmen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we've seen that. Hanny's been choosing to use Carmen. It's just slightly better.
Yeah. This is like the matchup we're having.
It's 8 for Ngolo versus 7 for Carmen to get through a Hydra.
No, it's just 7/7.
Oh,
it's just
okay,
no
cool.
difference. This is the one matchup where, like, if you had a late game echelon, or you had even a nanotech, I think actually does work okay into these tall servers.
Nanotech would be very good. Nanotech was some good tech against Surveyor.
Yeah,
Even though it eventually couldn't keep up.
Yeah, back in the day.
Depending on the size of the server.
That was the sort of meta that appeared there. I think Hany might have taken this run back. He's thinking this through. I think he understands the walls are closing on him. That is hard for this deck. Yeah, okay, we took that run back. Totally fine. It's hard to make impact runs when it just conduit to C2. Like, that's probably not enough in this matchup. You have to get lucky.
Not right now, not for 13 credits.
It's about, like, running HQ at the right time, right? Like, after a Rashida draw, does he have an agenda in hand? Maybe, but it probably went into the remote server.
Yeah, and there's an interesting thought here about, like, do you let Junia res everything?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a echo chamber.
So Julien is now on game point. Install
Just have
advance in that remote server can mean game 4.
Yep.
And again,
And of course, that last agenda doesn't care about Hermes.
yeah, that's very important. That's not a scored agenda that's added to the score area. So Hermes and Tao do not trigger off this
Right.
weird asset.
It is a point that's added to the agenda score area rather than scoring an agenda.
So still chugging through the deck here.
Nearly
Again,
at the end of that deck.
Yeah, I think Imagine's
A
not
small
much
deck.
more than 40 cards. System Gateway was like that.
Of course, I run a 52 card Tao.
So many good cards so far.
There's too many.
We see the hand there. I think the deck is on 3 copies of Hermes.
Yep,
That
makes
eats
sense.
3 your influence. That's 9 influence. We see a no one home is 1 influence. Carmen is, I think, 2.
2, I think, yeah. Corroder's 2.
Oh, we're chopping here with 15 credits again. I don't think you can get through this.
Julian can definitely afford that middle ice.
Worst case, border control. Medium case, magnet.
That's a medium case.
That is
All right, we're taking some text.
surprisingly annoying for the Ngolo. It costs 3 credits to get through 3 credit ice.
Brutal.
You hate to see that.
Because Ngolo is so efficient, but it is like
Yes.
starts at 2 strength, not at 3.
It's really bad against some of the middle strength ice. So like Ike in the last meta that rotated, that was like one of the nightmare
Yeah.
scenarios. And Magnet's really well positioned against the meta, let alone into Ngolo, which is not
Mm-hmm.
that popular. 3 credits for 3 credit ice is a steal. Now this leaves him on 5 credits. So he can get through that Surveyor, but he'll have to take 2 tags, which may or may not matter. But more
We don't know
importantly,
if it matters.
he can't steal Bologna. Now there's only
no.
2 agendas in the deck he can steal here.
That's such a good point. Maybe I don't know if bouncing is the right play, but
Okay, actually, we're considering the trace here. You could reset the trace. Now, if you don't care about tags, you don't care about the tags, because on 0 credits, resetting the trace is kind of useless. Julian can just pay 1 credit to give you 2 tags if it matters. Not a huge tax. But that's an interesting card, how it plays into this matchup. So trace is going to fire again. The bottom trace was broken the end of the run, so it's only about this trace 6 on the top for 2 tags. So Julian has no reason to boost that because it's just going to go through. Trace 0, no money. Not going to boost that, so it will just be 2 tags for the runner. We'll see if those do matter. We don't know if there's tag punishment. We haven't seen anything so far.
there's so few relevant traces left anymore, and this is a fun one to see.
Maviri spending 3 credits to deny
Yeah,
1 additional
just-
access. And again, it's only the 2 send messages that are relevant here. Can't even trash Rashida, can't trash the Regolith,
Yeah.
which is a great draw here for Saru just to get the money back on track.
Yeah.
Because he could honestly kind of just like hold out here.
Mm-hmm.
Like just ice up R&D heavily. I don't even know if you need another ice. Even if you install another ice and don't res it, 8 strength Surveyor is up. It just gets worse.
Yeah. Hany is running out of resources here, literally and figuratively.
Regolith, install, double click, no surprise. So that takes 6 credits. We're still grinding through. I think we've gone through almost all teleworks, the last one on the table, all daily casts. And Hany's still with 2 credits there, just grasping at as minimal lucky
Yeah.
accesses as
Let's
he
get
needs.
3 more cards.
And even if he steals every single send a message here, Julian can still jam 1.
Yeah.
So the Bologna's in a good spot, drawing through 3 more credits coming off there.
God, imagine if notoriety was still in the game, huh?
Yeah, this is where it's like it's still hard to mad dash if you have that
Mm.
alternate win condition.
Yeah, true.
Sure gamble. 2 credits for the corporation.
Mm-hmm.
This is overbearing. You don't often see hyper glacier. I think we saw
Yeah,
again,
this is
this
brutal.
deck was played. I believe this is Rotom's deck largely from Continentals, made the top 16.
The Azmari deck?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Azmari deck. I think this deck is probably very close to, I want to say Jai's. I have to double check that from APAC. One of the first events where we saw Hermes Tāo. Drawing up just another ace. You look at the hand, attitude adjustment for clean filtering, and NGO front for money, no more agendas. So right now it's just wait for the top deck for an agenda,
Yep.
install advance, hold.
Yeah, that's all I have to do. And in the meantime, just make a casual 6 more credits of a regular.
And that 4th ice there means we have an 8 strength surveyor. Carmen, boost, I think? Because it goes to 5. No, it goes to 6. No, it goes to 8 and 2 boosts.
Yes.
Yeah. But still very annoying. You could consider goaling through it. I think it's still more expensive. 1 card left in the deck. So Hany thinking out here, understanding with 10 credits, he has so much work to do.
Yeah. Interesting that most of the ice we've seen is out of faction. Like Hydra, of course, is a really big piece of ice, but you know, the surveyor and the border controls are huge and important pieces.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 9 influence on border controls, because again, the force multipliers, it's just like having another Hydra on their remote server, and that's, you know, a 4 credit Hydra is good.
If you're building a Glacier deck, you start with 2 to 3 border controls at least.
Yeah. The only other question, running HQ again. This run here, if Julien had a piece of agenda, I think it goes straight into the remote server. So 3 credits for a magnet is, you know, on the lower end.
Yeah, that makes
that's
HQ
okay.
kind of accessible, but it's not like Julien will keep an agenda in there for long.
This might just be the only run he can make. As much as, I don't know if you're going to see an agenda here. Just another toll booth, a bit disheartening. Again, we still haven't used those credits on the counters on the air blades.
The air blades, yeah, exactly.
Which I think toll booth might be the only target. Drawing his last card. That means the economy is just straight up.
It's gone.
It's click for credit time. We've 1 overclock in hand.
My kingdom for magnum opus, huh?
This is suffocating. Throwing out the SMC again. No deck left. Doesn't do anything. Rashida off the top there.
Yeah.
NGO front. We're spoiled for economy options here if you really want. You can use attitude to like burst draw.
Yeah, true.
And then just get 1 agenda in the remote server scored in 2 turns. That's a purge.
That's a mean. Come on.
That's a purge. And that's
so mean.
That's correct.
It
He
is
understands
correct.
the only way I can lose, even with time coming up, mind you, time is only probably about 5 to 10 minutes from here.
It's a little while away, yeah.
He doesn't have anything to do but wait till he top decks an agenda.
If you've got nothing better to do, that's a fine turn.
Yeah, 1 virus counter gone, but potentially a very important virus counter. Overclock. With 15 credits, you can't get through here.
No, I don't think you can. I mean, again, you've got to be willing to take the tags.
Oh, no.
Well, never mind.
Border control on the outermost.
Yeah, wrap it up.
You can force the border control fire. Even with 10 credits, you can't force the border control fire. It's 10 credits to get through Magnet Hydra. This run just feels like gotta do. Oh, I guess you have 15 credits, but you can't get through this.
No.
So you could consider spend 2 again, Corroder through the border control at a minimum, but I think Hany understands the writing on the wall here. This is just to do something, to feel like you're doing something, but that server is gone. The remote server is gone.
Yeah.
Hermes is useless now. Dao's not doing anything. We're paying through this. You can't get through this. I think we're just throwing money into the void.
I do think that's it. This is... Oof.
We're down to 6 credits. There is 1 on the overclock. They're taking that money off. It's again 3 for the magnet, leaving you with 3 credits. You cannot even trace your way.
Yeah, exactly.
8 strength Hydra. Sorry, 8 strength Surveyor. Trace 8, end the run. Trace 8, 2 tags in reverse order.
This might be politely throwing yourself on your opponent's sword.
Yeah. Again, still 2 tags. They don't seem to matter. And H is going to end the run there. Yeah. This is just to do something. But again, I think he understands here what the problem is. Checking archives. Might as well get a run in.
Who knows?
Now, time is coming up, and that is a big issue, but we forced at least a res there. There's just no way to position this ice in any way with infinite Dao triggers to make the conduit. On top of the deck was a send a message. The 1 agenda you could steal if you could get through. Install double advance, 1 more turn on the clock. Hany having exhausted so many of his credits just for that fun run there.
And that's it.
That should be it.
I don't see any way that Hany could contest this remote.
Yeah, the best you can do is run HQ, hope there's an agenda, get for a bounce, but you know if there's an agenda, go straight into the remote server. So just click for what kind of does here. We'll see. The handshake's coming up. We're coming up on time, but I think Julian's going to get to 7. That's it. Just gonna... You have it. Send a message. This NBN Glacier was not hugely well represented at top tables, but Isaru, we're not going to see him again in Swiss, is going to do well throughout the day.
Yes,
and there's not many decks that are built to deal with this.
No, not right now. Because a lot of the best ice is kind of low strength these days. A lot of the bigger, a lot more popular decks are not going full glacier.
Yeah, and I love this meta call, and we're going to see again, Isaru will make the top cut. We'll see him return to the tables, but understanding what decks can deal with this. Again, there are Shaper builds that can deal with this. Double Turbine decks, things that are playing fixed strength breaker suites. Like, you can get through some of this ice. It's just your deck needs to be specifically working towards that. And if you're trying to like just build up a conduit, it is so difficult. I'm not sure if Hany had to contest the early daily quest. It's very difficult. He might be talking about it right now.
Yeah,
but that's the sort of thing that snowballs the deck because the innermost ice on the daily quest server, not sure exactly what it is, but that gets away from you very quickly.
Really makes me feel like pinhole threading feels almost as essential to runners as Spin Doctor is to Corpse these days.
Yeah. We'll see some Ag Infusions, I think, later today as well. Maybe that confirms it. But thanks so much for watching. That is just round 2 of, again, 10 rounds of Swiss. We'll be back with another game real soon. Thanks
Bye,
for watching.
everybody.
Ciao. Hey, thanks so much for watching. NBN Hyper-Glacier. It's not something you see very commonly, but Azmari with those 3-pointers, it'll definitely get you there. Shout out to Isaru, who actually ends up coming in first across all of Swiss. We're not going to see him on camera anymore until we hit the top cut, which he very comfortably made it in there. Really difficult to make those runs. Again, Hydra. Ooh, 3x Hydra. Let's go. But of course, these videos, a lot of effort goes into editing this, and this would not simply be possible without the support from all the patrons on this channel. If you want to get involved, again, the Patreon link is in the description. All these names here, these are just the Sure Gamble and the Degree Mill tier patrons. So shout out to all the supporters at the daily cast level as well. Y'all are so great. That's it. Again, we'll be back next week. I believe Wednesday, we're going to get through all the series, trying to do 2 videos a week. We stream on Tuesday afternoons, Thursday evenings, Eastern time, and love to have you there. Hopefully you're enjoying the video series. We'll see you in a bit. Ciao.